We are just over 2 weeks away from the 2025 NBA draft, and with the way that the CBA has kind of restricted a lot of NBA teams financially, I think a lot of trades are going to go down, and they could go down in the next couple weeks. On today's show, you're watching Celtics Today by Chat Sports. We're going to go through a new Jrue Holiday trade update as an NBA insider has discussed what Boston feels about a trade and sending Jrue Holiday away, and has linked a new team to the two-time NBA champ. We'll get into all that in just a moment, but make sure before you do, go down below and like today's video. I got my boss watching today's show, and he said that we need 400 likes on the program today, or else we cannot go live for the first and second rounds of the NBA draft this year. So make it happen and show some love on today's video. Go down below and like it. And if we get 400, we're going to go live for round 1 of the draft in 2 weeks. All right, this came in from Jake Fischer over at the Stein line. He and Mark Stein like to work together on NBA offseason reports, and they've done some a good job already early this offseason. Fischer says this: Boston is most definitely listening to trade calls for Jrue Holiday. And look, this isn't a bombshell report. This isn't something that is brand new information to Celtics fans. We know with the constraints that they have financially, they're going to have to move off of a big salary or two. And Jrue Holiday likely returns the most value for Boston out of the players that they're going to want to trade this summer. Because we know the tax penalties, they are on their way for the Boston Celtics. Look, man, they're paying more in luxury tax this season than they are for their actual roster, and that's just unsustainable, especially when you consider the Celtics championship ceiling is capped without Jason Tatum missing most of, if not the entire season, with a torn Achilles. So out of the names that you could possibly deal, like, this is it, with guys making nearly $30 million, some way more than $30 million. So let's just talk about what happens if you trade one of these core Boston Celtics pieces. If you trade Jaylen Brown, is this a big-time rebuild or reboot in a way? Like, you're getting rid of a pillar of the franchise, a large $50+ million contract, so you're going to be getting an entirely new crop of players, and if you do trade Jaylen Brown, I could see a couple other names on this list move thereafter. If you trade Derek White, I mean, that's probably the worst move you could possibly make if you're Brad Stevens, and I don't think he's going to make it. I think you get yourself fired if you trade Derek White. I mean, he's on one of the best contracts in the entire league. Makes no sense. Age 29, like, you don't move off of that guy and off that deal. Kristaps Porzingis, there's value to trading him. You can get off an expiring contract, $30 million, and hopefully free yourself up, make yourself more financially flexible next offseason. And then Jrue Holiday, you'd get the most value back from a contender. He can still contribute a ton as a defensive stalwart, as a connector, as somebody who doesn't make a lot of wrong decisions on the basketball court. And for a lot of younger contending teams, he's a nice veteran voice that they could use in that locker room and on the court as well. So out of these names, who the Boston Celtics could trade this offseason, pick the one that you think is most likely and the one that you would most want to send away. If it's Jaylen Brown type JB, you can get a ton of value back for Jaylen Brown or Derek White, but it would not make sense for Boston to trade them. If it's Derek White type DW, if it's Kristaps Porzingis type of KP, or if it's Jrue Holiday type JH down in the comments section. Look, if I'm trading any of those guys, it's going to have to be Holiday because he's going to get you your most value back. Look, you're not trying to trade the core of this roster at this point. Jaylen Brown is an all-NBA level player, and with the way that the Eastern Conference looks next year, you could easily contend with a core led by Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and company. So I think that Celtics can see themselves contending next season. They probably don't want to blow it up at this point. Just get some money off of their books and move the guys that they're able to move this summer while remaining competitive. And Jay King said this earlier this offseason. He said, Jrue Holiday's reputation as a known winner and top defender should interest several contending teams if the Celtics do look to move him. And that seems like the path that they're going to go down at this point. We know Shams said that teams will express a lot of interest in Jrue Holiday. Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated a couple days ago said the Celtics would love to get off of Jrue Holiday's contract because, look, man, he's going to be 37 years old, making his age in millions, and that's just not an ideal scenario if you're trying to contend with multiple All-NBA level players in their prime. And Jrue Holiday was the X factor that helped Boston get their first championship in 15 years last season. Like, he was an integral part. He was hitting 43% of his threes, like 60% on threes in the corner. He was lights out, but he took big-time regressions in 2024-25, and the age and the tread on Jrue Holiday's tires really have revealed themselves this past season. The efficiencies went way down, and in the postseason, he was not effective as well. I mean, nobody's on Boston's offense really was, but Holiday was a culprit as well. And now, with the way that he looks and the way that his contract looks over the next couple seasons, Jake Fischer said that Boston may have to attach draft capital. And I mean, if I read between the lines a little bit, that means you have to attach first-round draft capital to Jrue Holiday in order to not only move him, but get value back in a potential deal. So who is interested in Jrue Holiday at this point? Well, there's a couple teams that have some reported interest, and all of them look to be contending in their respective conferences. We've heard about the Dallas Mavericks, and they're kind of, pushing their chips in the center of the table with Kyrie, AD, and now you got Cooper Flagg. They got really lucky in the draft lottery, so adding a name, kind of a stopgap ball handler in Jrue Holiday while Kyrie recovers would maybe be smart for Dallas. What about the Clippers? They could use more veteran voices and more championship-level experience on their roster right now. I mean, you got James Harden doing his thing late in playoff games, and I'd probably rather have the ball in the hands of somebody who's probably not going to make a bad decision with it. What about Houston? I mean, they need another player. I mean, their entire roster is like 25 and under, so I mean, Holiday could absolutely help bring some championship experience into that young locker room. Maybe the second seed in the West. They only need a couple marginal moves to get over the hump. What about Orlando, though? They're another young team, kind of like the Rockets of the East, as not as much production. They had a ton of injuries this year as well, but they're super young as well, led by two 21, 22-year-olds in Wagner and Banchero. So, like, Holiday could absolutely be a factor over there, and they have a ton of super young, inexperienced guards as well. And I bring the Magic up and kind of talk about them a little bit more here because before the original quote, when Jake Fischer said that Boston's going to be listening to trade calls on Jrue Holiday, well, he was talking about the Orlando Magic's offseason and the moves that they can make to improve in the Eastern Conference. So we're going to bring up a Celtics Magic trade idea for Jrue Holiday and why both sides might or might not accept it. But first, make sure you guys get hooked up with some fresh swag with our friends over at Fanatics. One player who I know, and I'm very confident in the Celtics not trading this offseason, is Peyton Pritchard, coming fresh off that Sixth Man of the Year campaign. Go show some love and support him with this fresh Sixth Man of the Year t-shirt with our friends over at Fanatics. That link right here is clickable in the comments section and description of today's show. Chatsports.com/6man of the year, 6MOY. Go get drift out in some Peyton Pritchard six-man gear today. All right. The trade idea is as follows. And if you watch every show, if you're a diehard fan of Celtics Today, this might look a little familiar to you as we talked about the Jazz potentially being a Celtics trade partner this offseason. The Celtics in this deal would receive Jordan Clarkson from Utah and Wendell Carter Jr., the center in Orlando. The Magic would get Jrue Holiday and a 2026 Boston first-round pick that could end up being valuable. You never know how good the C's are going to be next season without Tatum. And then the Jazz would participate in this deal, and for their troubles, they would get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and 3 Orlando Magic second-round picks. Look, at first glance, and I was asking a couple people around the Chat Sports office here, if this was like a crazy deal, is this bad? Is this good? No, a couple people have said it's pretty realistic. And I think that all 3 teams involved could think so too. Why Boston does this? I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, they shed solid money in this deal, $7.2 million, and they take on a movable contract, about $14 million in Jordan Clarkson. And the Celtics tax penalties don't kick in until the trade deadline. So you can easily move that contract to a team at the deadline next season. And then you luck out by actually getting a long-term piece back for Holiday in Wendell Carter Jr., somebody who I compare very often to Al Horford. So, like, I love this deal for Boston. He's a rim protector. He can move. He can pass. He can kind of shoot a little bit, too. I like Wendell Carter a lot, and Boston should absolutely be in on making this deal. Now, why does Utah do it? Well, Danny Ainge is an absolute mastermind when it comes to making deals in this league. And this is just a kind of a sweetener for him in a way. Like, he just gets to go and participate in this thing and reaps a bunch of rewards. Like, he gets rid of Jordan Clarkson in this deal and gets back KCP. Look, I know KCP didn't have a great year last season, but look, that's a better player than Jordan Clarkson, at least more valuable when it comes to winning. And he gets to get 3 draft picks. I mean, Celtics fans, we know Trader Danny loves his draft assets. So, I mean, he gets to participate in this deal just for the fun of it, get a better basketball player, and 3 draft picks. I think he would be chomping at the bit, licking his chops to get involved with this deal. Now, why the Orlando Magic would end up getting this deal done, it's pretty simple. Like, they're going out and getting the best player overall in the deal in Jrue Holiday. Like, he is, maybe a little bit on an overpay at this point, but, at this point, they need some championship blood on that roster. Like, they swap out KCP, who I would consider now to be overpaid. Yeah, not when he signed the contract. It was looking at it as a great deal. But, he averaged very bad efficiencies this past season. He didn't fill up the stat sheet quite like Orlando needed him to. So he looks to be movable now. And, yeah, they give up a couple second-round picks, but they're getting a first back in return. Yeah, they're giving up Wendell Carter, who I'd assume that they value pretty decently on that good contract, but they have a logjam in their front court at this point. They like Goga Batazzi. They got Mo Wagner coming off of an injury. So he could be a movable asset, and if that gets the deal done for Holiday, I think there's a chance they could do it, but Orlando's probably the team that is most likely to decline this deal. Would you guys make this trade? I want to hear from you in the comment section. A for accept, D for decline on whether or not you would let Jordan Clarkson and Wendell Carter back to Boston for Jrue Holiday and a first-round pick, and I guess the Jazz get involved as well. A for accept, D for decline. I want to hear from the Green Teamers out there on what they think about this 3-team blockbuster deal. All right, so I would probably have to say, yeah, accept this deal. Accept it. Next question. I'm driving everybody to the airport. I'm making the deal happen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, look, the Celtics get better in this deal long term. Like, when you think about down the line, 26, 27, they get under the second apron. They can make more financially flexible moves next offseason. And, you get a player in Wendell Carter who, he's part of your core for the next half decade. So I'm all in on this deal. And then, you move Jordan Clarkson, and you're right there at the second apron. So this does a lot of positives for the Celtics. So I'm doing this deal 10 times out of 10. And then to kind of further cement themselves and get underneath that second apron, I'd follow this up with a Sam Hauser trade just to get a couple more million off of the books. And then that allows Baylor Shireman to kind of slide into his role after a solid enough, promising rookie season. Look, I love this deal, and if you can get me Wendell Carter back in a deal for Jrue Holiday, I'm not so sure I would say no to giving up anything else, as long as it's not a player that makes more money or something similar back in Jrue Holiday. So that will do it for today's edition of Celtics Today by Chat Sports. If you guys think that trade's crazy, or if you have another idea for Jrue Holiday that works, let me know in the comment section. And make sure you are subscribed, because if anything else comes out about a Jrue trade, we'll bring it to you right here at Celtics Today. So lock us in, hit that sub button. We'll see you in the next one. And as always, let's go C's.